Welcome to another episode of Teen Scene. I'm your host, Ann Quasman, and today I want to welcome Brooke Burkhart as my guest. We've got a great show today on human trafficking, a subject that I think will be of great interest to teenagers out there. So don't go anywhere, we'll be right back. Welcome back. I'm Ann Quasman, and today I have the fortune of interviewing and talking with Brooke Burkhart. Welcome, Brooke.
Thank you. It's so great to be here.
Well, I want to tell people about what our connection is, okay? I'm the host of Woman Talk Live, which is a radio show here in Baltimore on Talk Radio 680 WCBM, and every year I sponsor a contest called the Girls Gone Great Contest, and you're number 6. I have found 6 fabulous girls gone great. And when I started the contest back in 2007, it was the summer that every time we turned on the news, we saw something about Lindsay Lohan or Britney Spears or Paris Hilton. And I just kept thinking there have to be young women out there that are doing good things and making a difference. And so I kicked off this contest and asked young women, I wanted to know what they were doing in this world. So it didn't have anything to do with grades, even though grades often come in as part of it, but I wanted to know what they were doing to make a difference and why that was important to them. And so over the past 6 years, I found 6 fabulous women, and you're the most recent one. So it's great to have you on board.
Thank you. Girls Gone Great is such a great organization. It gives a lot of girls the opportunity to share what they're doing in their community and in the global community also to support what they have passion for. Girls Gone Great is such a great honor because it gives other girls the opportunity to express what they're passionate about and give everyone else in the community a sense of what they're doing to make the community a better place.
You know, what I have found out is that so many people don't realize that we have young women that are real activists. And that's when I read your essay. That's exactly what I thought. You know, here's an activist, and 20, 30 years down the road, I'm going to be saying, I knew her then. And so what I want to talk about is a subject that is near and dear to my heart, and it's about human trafficking. And when I read your essay, that was your passion. and of course it caught my attention. So why don't we talk a little bit about the work that you're doing and how the subject of human trafficking and this issue became so important to you. And so first of all, let's tell people where you go to school and what you're doing right now.
I attend Mercy High School. I'm currently a member of the Mercy High School dance troupe and a member of Macaulay Club.
Well, one of the things that really got my attention in the essay that you submitted for the Girls Gone Great contest, you mentioned going to a conference that involved all of the Mercy High Schools in the United States and Guam. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, at the end of my sophomore year, I was asked to attend a leadership conference at Gwynedd Mercy College in Pennsylvania. At the conference, there were 9 Mercy schools that attended the conference, and we were all there for the same reason, and it was to raise awareness of the cause of human trafficking. The year before I attended the conference, the conference was entitled the Now Campaign, and it was to raise awareness of the subject of human trafficking, and the money raised by all the Mercy schools, was to go towards building safe houses in underdeveloped countries for the girls in human trafficking. And the year that I attended the conference, our theme was the 50-50 Challenge, which was to raise $50 scholarships for 50 million girls.
That is a lot of money.
It is.
And so, do you know where you are?
Well, we raised about $20,000, and which was all of the combined Mercy schools work together, and so we got to raise 400 something scholarships to send girls to schools to keep them out of the cycle, because like most of the 12-year-old girls in the United States, their trouble is to where to sit at lunch and who to play with at recess. But these girls have to make a decision that's going to change their life forever, whether it's going to be they have to sell themselves into the cycle of trafficking, or their family does to get their family on the right path, or their husband or their father, just to survive.
Right. Well, what was the biggest surprise for you? I mean, you said that, you're thinking about where do I have lunch, or, what am I going to do this weekend? And these girls have a whole different set of issues they're dealing with. Was that a big surprise for you?
Yes. I mean, it gives you a whole different perspective of what other girls your age might be dealing with around the world. Even in the United States it happens, and it's shocking to know that you're so wrapped up in what you have to do and what decisions you have to make that seem very hard, and that it's just like no words can describe that a girl who's 12 or 13 or even younger has to go through to make a decision for their entire life that's going to impact them and trauma and scar them. It's very sad.
Hope.
Yeah.
No hope is what I think about. And so why is education so important? What did you find out about that as far as keeping girls out of this cycle of trafficking?
Well, a girl being put in school helps them stay out of the cycle of human trafficking, because it keeps them out of, not necessarily out of the home, but in a place that is safe, where they're educating themselves to strive for a better future and to look for a job and not be as vulnerable to be put in the cycle of human trafficking.
So, when you came back, you went to that conference and everybody got all excited, and you had this project, the Mercy Girl Effect.
Yes.
And is the Mercy Girl Effect the project itself of raising the scholarship dollars?
The Mercy Girl Effect is the project that all of the Mercy schools do together.
Okay.
So each year a new, a title is given to the fundraiser that we're supporting to raise money for. So one year it was Project Ujima, where we raised money to build communities and schools in Ujima. And then one year it was just to raise money for underdeveloped countries and to supply safe houses. And then last year was the 50-50 Challenge, which was to raise scholarship money to send the girls to school.
$50 scholarships, $50 million $50 scholarships.
And when I heard that, I was like, that's crazy. But I mean, you have to set your standards high so that you can strive to meet that.
And so this will be an ongoing project.
Well, it's each year. So this year our project is to build the schools.
Okay.
So build the schools for the girls to go there. But I mean, it all goes to supply the same human trafficking kind of idea.
Sure.
So
Giving young girls an opportunity to see that there's a different way to live.
yes.
So when you came back to Baltimore,
Yes.
and you had to rally the troops at Mercy High School in Baltimore. So what did you do then?
Then we had a school-wide assembly, and we educated the Mercy community about why we went to the conference and what we learned, and we told them what our goal was of the campaign, and we sold sunglasses that on the side it said Mercy looking into the future, so that when you put the glasses on, it was like when you would look into a new future for a girl because you contributed to a scholarship to send a girl to school who was hopefully looking for a new future. So and we also we have like school-wide clubs that they gave money towards. They had fundraisers. We've had a concert at our school it was just something new that we tried, and we raised money for that. We had a Zumba activity after school, which girls paid $5 to come to, and we had a Zumba teacher come, and she taught us all Zumba, and there was not an empty space in the gym. And
Sounds fun.
Yeah, and we had
So serious stuff can be fun too.
Yes. And we had a dance. We got a boys' school involved, our brother's school, and Mercy, and they paid for their tickets. And the DJ, he was like, "I'll down the price because it's going to a good cause." And
Fabulous.
Yeah.
Well, did you find after you had gone to the conference and you came back and you got the high school here, Mercy involved here, was it difficult to portray the seriousness of this cause?
Yeah, I mean, I had never knew of the topic of human trafficking until 3 or 4 years ago when I came to Mercy, and the girls who went to the Gwinnett conference before me, their subject was the Now campaign, and that's when the whole human trafficking subject came about. And it was, when you first hear it, it's like, oh yeah, like, okay, but then when they show you a video and you see, like all the possibilities, and it's just honestly like no words can describe. Like once you actually hear it from someone who has, suffered from that and heard a true story about it, that's when it really like hits you.
And it's the awareness of the issue.
Yes,
That
definitely.
if you don't know about it, you can't even conceive that it could be going on. Well, since you won Girls Gone Great, I said you've been on a tour. No. And you actually were in New York last week at the United Nations.
Yes,
and so why don't you
was.
tell us about that?
I was asked to go with 3 other students to the United Nations in New York City, and we got to go to 7 different sessions that concerned women. And the first session that we went to was journalism, which I was like, why are we going to a session on journalism? And there was an ambassador from Austria, and he was, talking about his country, how they are, striving to get the crime rates down, on how to protect journalists in their country because they're not having the freedom of speech that they should have, and they are being like killed and murdered and raped because of how they feel and how they're writing. And it's just, today people write in the newspaper, can submit anything they want, and nothing's done. I mean, that I personally know of, but in other countries, journalists are being tortured, and because they can't say what they want to say and express their feelings, which is a human's right concern, that they don't have freedom of speech. So
Now we're going to go into a little more serious side of this. We're talking about human trafficking and the cycle of human trafficking. Can you address exactly what that means, what trafficking is and what the cycle is about?
Human trafficking does not only concern women, but it also concerns men, but women are at a higher risk of being trafficked than men are. But human trafficking is where people are forced into slavery, which they have to sell their body and possibly be raped. This topic of human trafficking really does have a place in my heart because these girls are pretty much put in a cycle once they are already exposed to being trafficked once, because if they're not sent to school or being educated in a sense that how they can stay out of that cycle, then they will continuously go in that, and if they have children, then their children will be more apt to go into that cycle and their children. But if they're sent to school, then it's more of a chance that their children will then follow in their mother's footsteps as to being sent to school and not staying in the cycle of human trafficking.
Yes, that's exactly right. And do you have any figures, or did you see any information about women that are trafficked women that have children and what happens with those kids?
There about 1.2 million women are forced into the cycle of human trafficking.
That's hard to believe, isn't it?
It is very hard to believe, and I mean, I don't know the exact figures of what happens to their children, but it's possible that when they are trafficked, if they do have children, then their children are then immediately put into that cycle at a young age, which is very hard to believe and very hard to hear stories and handle that information, because it was talked about at some of the sessions at the UN that girls that are 9 years old are being already put in this cycle, and it's just crazy to believe, because at 9 years old, I mean, you have no idea what human trafficking is, and just to be in that kind of community where that's the norm and the police don't do anything about it, because it's not the man's fault that they, sexually abused them. It's the woman who allowed it to happen, which shouldn't be, but
the victim blaming.
Exactly. Is the case in some
that we often see. I mean, we see that in sexual assault cases.
Yes.
Even in our country,
Yeah.
all of the time. Well, what I guess, when we're looking at this subject of human trafficking, we're putting ourselves in these women's place and these young girls' place, and sometimes we forget who's purchasing.
Mm-hmm.
And what do you think we can do about it from that angle? That there are men out there that are making the demands for these young girls.
I think it needs to be the demand. So a stop has to come to the demand of human trafficking, and it's actually funny that you asked that, because that was a session at the United Nations. Mm-hmm. It was called "Stop the Demand," and if there is no demand for it, then it doesn't happen. But because there's such a high demand for trafficking, it does happen, and trainings need to happen in these underdeveloped countries. Awareness needs to be made, and that's why I feel that going to a conference like I went to in Gwyn and Mercy, that I was able to bring back to my Mercy community and educate the Mercy community at my school and the alumni and the Mothers Club and the Fathers Club and the Board of Trustees, and it's just to get a voice out there to make known that this is happening and make others aware is, I think, needs to happen.
Sort of like that commercial, she tells somebody and she tells somebody
Yeah.
and she tells somebody, and that's how we spread this awareness.
Yeah.
And hold that thought. We're going to pick up right there, and we'll be back in a moment. Welcome back. You know, before we went to break, we were talking about what human trafficking is and the cycle of human trafficking, and you were giving us all of the statistics, but I'm really curious, what was it about this issue that really pulled you in? And even more importantly, you've stayed involved with it. So why has it been so important to you?
I feel that when I was introduced to the topic of human trafficking because of the other girls who attended the conference, I was interested and, I wanted to know more. But then when I was asked to go to the conference, and Sister Deirdre Mullen, who is one of the Sisters of Mercy, who also works at the United Nations, she was the person who, at the conference, who actually initiated what she thought that she wanted the goal to be, and for us to come up with a name for what she knew about and heard about. And when I found out that it was going to be related to human trafficking again, I thought this is really an opportunity for me to, really show and educate other people about this topic. And I was at that point when Sister Deirdre Mullen came out and said, the topic that we're going to be addressing this year is human trafficking. I was honored to be a part of that committee to help raise awareness for human trafficking.
Do you see this as something that you want to continue in the future?
Yes, definitely. And going to the United Nations, the Women's Conference, it was just to see. You weren't anywhere in the building that you weren't hearing another language of, from wherever they were from. And we went to so many different sessions where people, they had to translate the session because just having all those women there, it's so empowering to, see how many people are concerned, not only about the topic of human trafficking, but of so many other topics that concern women in the world.
What was it like for you to get that big picture, that whole big picture of seeing all of these women from all over the world, speaking different languages, but coming together for a common cause?
It's shocking. I didn't expect it to be like that at all. I thought we were going to be in, this conference room and a couple people. But, you had to get tickets to these sessions, and people really wanted to come in. We were in one session. There was a lady just banging on the door because she wanted to get in so bad, but there was no room. And, it's just crazy how much people can come together for a common cause to raise awareness and to try to find other solutions that will help the world and to come together as one in equality.
That whole power of a group getting together.
It's very empowering to see everyone come together.
And it excites you even more about the cause.
And it makes you want to do more and really strive for your goal.
You see the possibility in it and all, when you get everybody involved in it. Well, the show that, the radio show Woman Talk Live, when we announced that you were the winner, one of my guests, besides Jill Moss Greenberg, the executive director of the Maryland Women's Heritage Center, was a woman named Wendy Lesko. And Wendy is the president of the Youth Activism Project of Schoolgirls Unite, and she was one of the co-founders of the International Day of the Girl. And one of the gifts she brought me was a book called Girls Gone Activist. And that was written by two sets of girls in the Schoolgirls Unite program, one in the United States in Montgomery County, and then the other in Mali in Africa.
Yeah.
And it's about the power of girls coming together to promote education for young girls everywhere.
Right.
And so this all falls in line with you being an activist and you making a big difference and getting other people excited.
Yeah. And another thing that I find really exciting about the whole conference and bringing back to my school of what our cause is and how to raise awareness is that these young girls who are in 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade are, giving back to this cause, and they're becoming more aware, and hopefully they're going home and saying, Mom, Dad, can I have $5 so I can go to Zumba to support, our human trafficking, cause and awareness.
So what's next for Burkhart?
That's a good question. I mean, I'm going to be on your show on April 6th, so I'm very excited for that.
And you graduate from high school this year?
I graduate from high school.
And then what after that?
I'm still waiting to hear back from some colleges. I really would like to go to University of Maryland or University of South Carolina. But as of now, I'm going to Washington College, because I'm still waiting to hear back from my other schools. So as of now, Washington College.
Okay, and what do you plan to major in?
I'm not too sure. I have a passion for dance. I've danced ever since I was 3 years old. I went to the Baltimore School for the Arts and danced there, and now I'm on Mercy's dance troupe, like I said before. And I really have a passion for helping people, and especially women. I want to do something in the medical field. I'm not exactly sure what.
A dancing doctor.
I guess you could say that. So I just want to go to college and, take a variety of classes to see where I think I fit in at. So.
Do you still think you'll be an activist in college?
Yes, definitely. I love being involved in my community and in my school community especially, because, it's just, it's a lot of work that goes into it, but then when you see the final product, it's really nice.
Well, I want to thank you, number one, for being a girl gone great.
Thank you.
Because I see great things happening for you. And as I said, we're going to be able to look back or look forward and in 20 years go, I knew her when. And so thank you, Burkhart, for being a girl gone great. It's great to have you here.
Thank you.
Thanks. Well, that's it for today, and we'll see you next time on Teen Scene.